What is up? That's right, everybody. It's the UFC Abu Dhabi post show. And what you hear right now in your earballs, those are the victory horns, and they sound for Umar Nurmagomedov. The undefeated prospect is a prospect no more. He did the damn thing. A 50-45, 49-46, 49-46 unanimous decision win over Cory Sandhagen. Plus a whole bunch of other stuff happened, and we're going to talk about it. Hey, everybody. I'm Meshew of MMAfight.com. Great website. And this is the UFC Abu Dhabi post show. Mike Heck's usually in this chair. He's still out on vacation. I'm still taking over the ship. But helping me on this wonderful journey, the crew for us as we move through this evening, I'm joined by two esteemed members of the MMA fighting staff. First of all, on the preview show, we talked a lot about things. Mr. José Youngs. How you doing, Jose?
Oh, life's a blessing, man. It's absolutely torrential rain outside in Manhattan. So what a wonderful Saturday to stay inside and watch high-level martial arts.
I was about to say, man, life is a blessing. We just got some real high-level martial arts happening out there.
Thriving, surviving. That's our motto.
And the man who is always thriving, who's always surviving, whose birthday it was on Thursday and I didn't even know, but he came away with a dub on BTL anyway. New York Ricky, how we living?
It's a beautiful day. I'm glad to be here with all of you. I enjoyed the high-level mixed martial arts. It's not quite torrential out here on Long Island. It's dark and gloomy, but hopefully we can brighten up everybody's days with this post show.
Man, let me tell you, in the South, I mean, you can see it for yourself. Exceptional. Even made all the better by the fact that I'm going to get out of here with still daylight to be made use of. But that comes later. First, we got to talk about things before we get into it. So you guys know we'll do a Q&A afterwards. I'm sure you guys got thoughts. You got questions, comments, concerns. Pop them into the chat. We'll answer some questions when we're done talking about all this stuff. And, of course, super chats get that priority. Now that that's out of the way, fellas, Umar Nurmagomedov. That was a heck of a performance, boys. We're talking about high-level mixed martial arts. And Jose, Umar delivered a performance that I don't think anybody saw coming in that regard. But, I mean, dominance, not quite the word, but he did win most of the rounds, and he walks away still undefeated. Mm-hmm. What's your big takeaway from watching that fight and how it unfolded?
It basically felt like 125-minute round, like, you know, a lot of high-level, like, feinting, striking. They were both landing when they found those even small, minor openings, both just elite footwork in there from both men. It just seems like the adjustments throughout the fight were slight but very noticeable, and they were basically, it was just like, I hate the term high-level chess match because it's thrown out way too much, but this basically was Umar would lay a trap, Cory wouldn't bite, he would lay a trap, Umar wouldn't bite, but then, like, it just felt like Umar would go for the takedown, clinch up, body lock, kind of take it down, take the back, look for something, and Cory would just do one of those rolls. So the grappling, it just felt like rinse and repeat, paint by the numbers, but the striking was very, very, very fun. If anyone just likes to watch, you know, like I said, elite footwork, feints, hooks, uppercuts, all that jazz, this was the striking clinic. Striker's dream. It wasn't the bloodthirsty war that everyone wants, but I think this is what most people that follow the sport, and especially follow Cory Sandhagen and Umar Nurmagomedov's career, this is probably what you expected, just high-level striking, not necessarily the violent brawl that some fans like to watch, but enjoyable all around, and Umar Nurmagomedov was just uber impressive in there.
Incredibly impressive, Rick. I mean, look, we all knew that Umar is the book on him is, a Nurmagomedov with hands. That's a fun thing. But this was a level up because while he won the grappling, and we can talk more about that. I have thoughts. He won this fight with the striking. This was kind of like we've seen with Islam lately. Like, yeah, he's an unbelievable grappler, but where he is actually winning fist fights is in his ability to win striking exchanges. And I at least certainly didn't see that coming. So how'd you react to watching Umar Nurmagomedov go out there and not, this is a little much to say it, but it's the words I have, kind of box Cory Sandhagen's ears?
Yeah, I can't say I'm surprised just from the fact that as Habib's career went on, this is kind of what happened as well, right? As he became more comfortable with the hands, the threat of the takedown and the preparation that fighters who are facing him go into that fight with, planning to defend takedowns, leaves them open to the striking that continues to improve, right? The wrestling base is always going to be there. So as the Nurmagomedov clan and the associated people that are part of that team continue to improve their hands, that's the thing that's going to be the glaring difference in a lot of these fights, because everybody is going to be so focused on not getting taken down and not having their back taken and not getting out grappled, that all of a sudden they find themselves in space, and the striking is the thing that's the difference. And we saw, as I said, we saw this kind of with Habib. I would say Islam, not as much, just because I think Islam is kind of more respected as a striker earlier in the game. Like I think a lot of people recognize that like his striking and grappling are both at a relatively high level. But I'm not surprised from that perspective. I think as everybody comes in thinking, I cannot let Umar take me down, you're going to open yourself up to be outstruck. That's just how this goes, and it's why it's such a dangerous game to play with the Dagestani wrestlers, and especially the people who are trained by Habib.
I think that's a great point, Rick, because I mean, you heard Cory Sandhagen. He got the post-fight interview, all class, said, "Man, dude beat me," and kind of the first, quick assessment. But I maybe spent a little too much time focused on defending the grappling and wrestling. It's hard to say that, because I think if he spends any less, it's probably still a bad night for him, because Umar still had success in that phase, but they just get you coming and going with what happened there, and Omar's now in the UFC rankings. He is going to have a number 2 next to his name, Jose. We all talked about it. It was one of the predominant storylines coming in. The winner of this is going to go on. Will they get the title shot against the winner of Sean O'Malley versus Merab Dvalishvili? Coming off this performance, that call out, first main event, do you think that's happening? Did Umar just solidify his claim to a title shot next?
I still think so. I was very adamant on the preview show that I was, extremely confident that the winner of Sean O'Malley and Merab Dvalishvili would fight Umar Nurmagomedov. If it's Merab, I can't see why he wouldn't. I don't think Merab has made any. I don't think he's laid any plans out to move up to featherweight anytime soon or chase these big money fights, especially with his teammate Aljamain Sterling move up to featherweight. And Sean O'Malley is. I think I saw an interview his coach did where he even brought up like Umar is a big name, the last name Nurmagomedov, an undefeated fighter named with the last name Nurmagomedov is a draw, is a big deal, especially if Habib is in the corner. And, Sean O'Malley and Conor are on the outs right now. They don't really seem to like each other. But if Sean O'Malley, who, has that O'Malley last name, goes in there and fights an undefeated guy named Nurmagomedov, that is a big money fight. Sean O'Malley is a popular fighter. Umar Nurmagomedov is a very popular fighter. Both of their camps are popular. They got a loyal fan base. Sean is a smart guy. It's going to be a very dangerous fight, but I still think he takes it. But that's if he gets through Merab, which I'm sure we'll talk about at some point on this preview show. Or we'll obviously talk about it the closer we get to the fight. But yeah, I'm pretty confident the winner is going to fight Umar, and I'm pretty sure the UFC wants another Nurmagomedov in a title shot.
I agree. I think given what happened, we'll talk about another fight on this card that maybe had an outside chance to sneak in there, but seems very likely Umar has set himself up for that. And Rick, I got to be honest, that's my most anticipated fight for the rest of this year, I think. Whether it will happen this year, we'll see. But I'm assuming you're on board that that's one of the 5 best fights you can make in MMA right now.
I love the fight. I'm definitely into it. I don't think it jumps ahead. I'm particularly interested in Merab and O'Malley. I really want the resolution to that. I still have that above Umar. I certainly want to see Umar get a shot, but for me, Merab and O'Malley is above it, and certainly for me, Ilya and Max, like that is A plus 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 plus. That's the one that I'm dying to see. It's what I wanted to see even before Ilya fought Volkanovski. So it's not quite up there, but if you give me top 5, I think I can come along with that. I definitely think I can come along with that, just because of how exciting bantamweight is as a division. And it feels like finally the contenders are starting to move, right? We cleared the Sean O'Malley versus Chito Vera bad blood out of the way, and now we're getting some guys that we believe are going to truly be a real threat to Sean O'Malley's title reign in Merab Dvalishvili and Umar Nurmagomedov. And Umar versus Merab is also a fight that I'd be excited about. So yeah, I'm anxious for it. I'm excited about it, and I think Umar looked good enough to really solidify himself in that contender position.
Yeah, I mean, all around, just a great performance. Particularly because, suffered that sort of weird ankle thing that happened early in the fight. First round, he was looking a little tight. They kind of made reference to it as it looked like he had drop foot for a hot minute and then just kind of battled through. Good call out, good mic performance, good work all around. The other side of this, of course, Cory Sandhagen falls short on the precipice again. You got to give Cory Sandhagen a ton of credit. There are many reports out there of dudes straight up just not wanting to fight Umar, and Cory has been about that life from day one. It kind of the refrain coming in here was, I'm here to be the best fighter in the world. If I don't want to fight somebody, like, what does that make me? It's not that. And took his loss on the chin at the end, but Jose, where do we go from here with Cory Sandhagen? Obviously, still unbelievably talented. It's not like he lost this fight by a ton, but another setback from kind of title aspirations. Where do we go with Cory?
That is a good question, because he's pretty much fought everyone in the top 10 at bantamweight already.
Fought a lot of dudes.
Figueiredo won, so I feel like that would be. And as much as I would want to see that Figueiredo fight, I just can't see Figueiredo taking that. That is a dangerous fight against someone that is coming off a loss. Let's see. Merab is taken. He already fought Jan and lost. Jan's already also coming off a win, so that'd be a weird thing for Jan to fight. Beat Cheeto. I mean, the Cejudo fight is there. That'd be fun. And then Jose Aldo's already booked up. Rob already beat Rob Font. Kyler Phillips is booked up.
Already beat Song Yadong.
I mean, I'm down to see Henry Cejudo or Dominic Cruz versus Cory Sandhagen. Either of those fights I'm down to clown with. Cory Sandhagen has made it known that, Dom is one of the guys he's modeled his fighting style off of, especially early in his career. And Henry Cejudo yes, he's lost back-to-back fights to Aljamain and Merab. He is still an elite bantamweight. Stylistically, I would love to see Cory Sandhagen versus Dominic Cruz in a 5-round fight. I think that's a lot of fun. I don't know if Cory wants to fight another wrestler-based fighter like Henry Cejudo. He's kind of, that seems to be his weakness at this point, like Aljamain, like Umar Nurmagomedov. So if it was up to me, I'm down to clown with Cory Sandhagen versus Dominic Cruz in a main event, hopefully in front of a crowd with the big cage, because that means we get to see all kinds of fun footwork in a lot of open space. But that would be, in terms of rankings, I would imagine if he is ranked, he is probably way down the list to Cory Sandhagen. But he seems like him and Aldo seem like one of those names that people don't have a problem fighting down to face, given their prominence in MMA lore. So I hope it's Dominic Cruz, but who knows?
Dominic Cruz is ranked somehow in the UFC rankings at number 13. I would love that fight. It would be like back in the day Street Fighter when you've just got palette swapped Sub-Zero and Scorpion facing off. That's just what Sandhagen Cruz would be. And it would be dope. I would watch the hell of that fight. I know Jose Aldo got booked. Scrap that booking. Let's do Jose Aldo versus Cory Sandhagen. I'm super down on that too. A lot of fun things you can do with him, but it will be interesting to kind of see how that rolls. Rick, do you have any thoughts to add to this main event before we kind of keep moving on down the line? Because we got a lot of things that happen that we got to talk about.
Only to say for Cory, I would love to see him fight Sean O'Malley. So if Sean O'Malley can't get it done against Merab, Sean O'Malley versus Cory Sandhagen is the fight I really want. At the same time, the climb back to the title is just going to be rough for Cory Sandhagen. Unfortunately, every time he's kind of on the precipice of the number one contendership, there's a guy there that just is slightly better, and he gets into an amazing fight with them, but he's just a little bit short. We'll see how many times he wants to make that climb at bantamweight. I wouldn't mind seeing him maybe potentially try to bulk up a little bit and maybe take a crack at featherweight. We just saw Aljamain Sterling move up to featherweight. It doesn't seem like he has quite the difficult cut that Aljamain Sterling has, but certainly can't be easy with how big a frame he has. I wouldn't mind seeing a fresh coat of paint. Let's just see. Like, I don't think he's out of the conversation because it takes a while to really get out of a conversation for a title. You can hang around for a good bit as long as you can beat the next guy. If he beats a guy like Sean O'Malley, he'll still be in that convo. But once you're still in that convo, then you're facing Umar, or you're facing somebody else, or you're facing Merab, you're facing somebody who's like that. And maybe you just need to have some new faces and new opponents. But there's a lot of good options for Cory. So I don't think this is, a disaster situation for him. But yeah.
I am pretty in on either O'Malley or Merab, frankly, whoever loses. I don't generally like to do that because I'd like there to be a little more motion at the top of a weight class than letting guys who are already in top spots just kind of rotate. But given how successful Cory was stopping the takedowns and kind of fending off the grappling of Umar, wouldn't mind to see him in there against Merab, see how that goes. So still plenty of things to be done. Still a young man, still obviously extremely talented. So it will be a long road back for him, but I got nothing but respect for that dude for taking this fight because there are a lot of dudes in this weight class who specifically did not do so for a very clear reason. But we got other things to talk about in the co-main event. Shara Bullet Magomedov wins a unanimous decision over Mikhail Oleksiejczuk in the best performance of Shara's UFC career, arguably the best performance of his entire career. I liked Mikhail Oleksiejczuk's chances to pull off an upset, and Shara just kind of dog walked him for most of that fight. Impressive from Oleksiejczuk not to get finished, but Jose, we talked a little bit about this co-main event heading in. It probably shouldn't have really been the co-main event, but it ended up delivering a very exciting fight. And like I said, Shara's best performance. So where are you on Shara coming off of this performance against Mikhail Oleksiejczuk?
I mean, it sort of played out like I thought because Mikhail Oleksiejczuk likes to just kind of stand and bang, and Shara Bullet does that to an extent, but he's much more of a dart in and out guy and throws a lot of kicks from a lot of weird angles. As I said, a lot of spin and shit was thrown in there from both men, fists and kicks. Shara Bullet, I just think, is a more refined striker than Mikhail Oleksiejczuk. Mikhail is a very good fighter, but he obviously loses to a lot of elite fighters, and it's usually by submission. It's rare that he gets outpointed like this, and Shara Bullet did it. Where I stand with him in his UFC career, I still don't know. He's obviously an exciting fighter, but it's not like he's melting people. Like, I know he beat Antonio Tricoli, but Antonio Tricoli took that on super short notice. He fought Bruno Silva to a decision in his UFC debut. Then he fought Mikhail Oleksiejczuk to a decision. And those are two guys that are never going to sniff the top 15, but they're probably on the tail end of like that 25 rank, like 25, 24. So I don't know. He's got to fight a grappler at some point, and he's got to fight a guy who is a competent striker at some point. I don't want to shoot him up the rankings too quick. I know Bo Nickel called him out. Definitely don't want to see that at this point in their careers because I think Bo Nickel will just eat him alive. I don't know. Questions are out there, but he's an exciting fighter, and more importantly, he generates a lot of traffic on social media for us and a lot of interest. So wherever he fights, people will tune in, which is very important. I don't know how good he is at mixed martial arts until he fights a guy because Bruno Silva is not a good wrestler, and Bruno Silva took him down a ton and just didn't do anything with it. And Shara Bullet just kind of elbowed him from the bottom and route to a decision win. You get a guy who knows what he's doing down there, which the middleweight division has a lot. I'd be curious, but TBD, but I'm always going to want to tune in and watch him fight.
Well, if he has his way, that won't happen because following his win, Shara gets on the mic and calls out Nick Diaz. Nick Diaz obviously was supposed to originally scheduled to face Vicente Luque on this particular card, and then that fight fell through because it's Nick Diaz and it's Abu Dhabi, and that fight was never going to take place. Shara now hoping for Nick Diaz to fight him at the upcoming UFC Abu Dhabi pay-per-view event. Rick, what are we doing here? What's happening right now?
A man with a dream and wanting to fight a big name is calling it out. I'm not interested in that fight. But I get it. I mean, I mean,
Come
we
on.
don't have to rehash this every time we have a show, but like, I don't believe that the call out is the be all end all. I don't think you have one shot and you have to get the right guy every single time. Sometimes it's okay to just call out a name and maybe it doesn't work out, and then behind the scenes you negotiate for somebody else. I don't think he'll be fighting Nick Diaz, but F it, go for it. I don't care.
Rick,
He's not going to fight.
We're not talking about this from like he wasted the call out. I'm talking about it from like purely a human standpoint of he called to fight a dude who has literally not got a win in over a decade.
He's calling for a guy who he knows will stand with him, which is smart because we've seen what happens when somebody wants to wrestle with him. So yeah, good, smart call out. Call out the guy who will guaranteed stand.
He has not fought in 3 or 4 years, 3 years, and he does not have a win since 2011. Like, that is one of the most shameless call outs of all time. Like, obviously, this is never going to happen, but that was ridiculous.
It will never happen. But look, he's just a pirate doing pirate things. You know, he's a scallywag. It's okay. I'm good. I'm okay with it. Waste the call out a big name, get the social media people making graphics on it, and that's it. It's great. Good for you. Good for you, Shara Bullet.
Again, totally fine to waste the call out. Totally not okay to try to fist fight Nick Diaz in the year 2024. Moving on then, because here's the real people's co-main event, and there's just not that much to say about the co-main event, I don't think. I think there's plenty to say about the feature fight bantamweight contest, where Davis Figueiredo, former flyweight champion, 3-0 up at bantamweight now, takes a pretty clear decision win over former title challenger Marlon Chito Vera. And Jose, again, lover of the high-level mixed martial arts, not quite the same contest as the main event, but still, what we're seeing from Figgy, kind of try and put that into context for me, because this dude has been exceptional since moving up to bantamweight.
Yeah, it just seems like he has. I know Sean O'Malley said that, you know, Davidson was trying his hardest not to gas, but it just seems the weight cut to 125 just depleted his end. Like, that would catch up to him. And yes, getting punched in the eye against Brandon Moreno, anyone will probably stop, especially when your eye swells shut. But it just seems like a much more measured approach. Like, he fully it seems like, and I'm not gonna say this is exactly what it is, just from the outside looking in, it seems like he is aware that a bantamweight, yes, he's healthier, but yes, they hit harder and his opponents will be, you know, bigger. He can no longer be that quote unquote weight bully where he's just physically stronger, longer, and more powerful than flyweights, and he can walk through damage. He's not going in there guns blazing. It's a much more measured approach, and I appreciate the adjustments to his career, because it will only prolong his career. Like, yeah, he could go in there, he can get in the slugfest with Marlon Vera, but that might not go his way, especially because he's going to have to get through that long reach and that teep kick that Marlon Vera always seems to throw throughout the fight. He did takedowns when he needed to. He did clang and bang at the end, and he was the first person to drop Marlon Vera in the UFC. I don't know if that's true. Sean O'Malley doesn't seem to think that's true either, but he didn't blow Marlon Vera out of the water. I thought I had him winning. For whatever reason, Chito thought he won the fight. He was raising his hand at the end. I didn't see him complain. I didn't really pay attention to him too much after they read the scorecards. But Figueiredo's finding a way to prolong his career and just pick up smart, easy victories, and I appreciate that. He's not going to fight for the title next. I would love to see him fight Peter Yan in a 5-round fight at 135 pounds. I think that would be a ton of fun, both striking, grappling, wrestling. Just another high-level martial arts contest, but well done by Figueiredo, picking up another win against a very tough, very difficult guy at 135 pounds.
So officially, that was the first knockdown that Chito has suffered in his UFC career. Sean O'Malley beat him pillar to post, and I have a recollection that at some point it felt like he got one, but not per the stat keepers. So officially, Davison Figueiredo does something that's never been done before, which is pretty damn impressive, Rick. Afterwards, he called for the title fight. Obviously, we've already talked about sort of the future of the bantamweight division. How does Davison Figueiredo, I mean, first, you know, certainly give us your thoughts on this fight, but then how does Davison Figueiredo get to the title fight? Has he done enough to simply wait? Can he just hang around for Umar to get his chance and then be next in line?
So I was very impressed. I've continued to be impressed by bantamweight Figgy. Like he just looks like he belongs here. Like it's been a decent run. Knocking down Cheeto Vera is no small task. As we talked about, like his chin is legendary, and he cracked it. Wasn't It's not like he blew the doors off Cheeto, but he looked damn good. And so I was impressed again with bantamweight Figgy. He can't wait around. He needs to be calling out Cory Sandhagen. He needs to be calling out the loser of O'Malley and Marab. He needs to be really campaigning for somebody who's going to be that one next step that he can get before he jumps into the title conversation, because he needs one more. And so while they wait and Umar then fights the winner, he needs to be calling out the top of the division. But if he gets past that one, I can see him getting a title shot. I don't think there'd be many obstacles between him and a title shot. Former champion, has looked really good since entering the weight class, can talk a little bit of shit when needed. So I don't think he's far away. I think it's one more.
Jose, you mentioned it. Do we think Petr Yan is the move here for our guy? Because honestly, that's a fight. As a fight, I'm pretty pumped about if it happens.
I know Petr Yan got hurt after his last fight against Song Yadong, and I know he needed. I don't know where he is in his career, but have they had calls out on social media? I know Cheeto's been calling out Yan for a long time, but I don't know. So yeah, I hope so. I mean, it'd be a fun fight, but like, I'll see Davidson Figueiredo fight Cory Sandhagen. I'll see him fight the loser of the title fight. I'll watch him fight Petr Yan. I'll watch him fight Dominic Cruz. I'll watch him fight Song Yadong. I'll watch him fight any of these guys. They're all Davidson Figueiredo. And like Rick said, he can't wait around. He's not the youngest guy. Yes, he changed weight classes, and yes, he probably prolonged his career, but he's not he's in his late 30s, if I remember correctly. So I don't think he can wait around. And as we've said many a time, the best ability is availability. And if he just keeps racking up wins, he'll be undeniable, especially if the UFC wants to go back to Brazil anytime soon. I think that would be a lot of fun. So yeah, I hope so. And like, hey, if Jose Aldo wins, who doesn't want to watch Figueiredo and Jose Aldo fight in Brazil? That'd be a stellar fight night main event for a Brazil card.
Oh my God. Now you're speaking my language. He is 36. Will turn 37 in December. So don't think the man can wait. Got to find the right opponent. I wouldn't say get in there with anybody, though I sure would watch him. But honestly, I've been incredibly impressed by this run. I thought he would have success up at bantamweight. I didn't think it would be as clean as it has been, just because he is on the older side. But Figgy Smalls, the ageless wonder. Next up, and not as sad as it could have been, boys. The fight we were all dreading, Tony Ferguson loses his 8th in a row, a record number of straight defeats inside the octagon. Michael Chiesa, after a tepid opening few minutes, gets to a takedown, hoists Tony into the air, throws him down, takes the back, and chokes him out for a first-round submission. Rick, certainly could have been worse, but Tony is still on an 8-fight losing streak. Afterwards, Daniel Cormier goes to him in the cage and is like, hey, are you done? And Tony says, I don't want to retire. I don't want to fight anywhere else. I'll half retire, basically, putting one glove down. Is this it? Have we finally seen the end of Tony Ferguson competing in mixed martial arts?
We've seen the end of Tony Ferguson in the UFC. I'm fairly confident to say that, because of the fact that he broadcasts like, I don't want to retire, but I don't want to fight anywhere but the UFC, which tells me that the UFC told them, Tony, like this is it, big guy. Like we got to move on from this. So this will likely be the end of Tony Ferguson in the UFC. That's my reading the tea leaves of what's going on there. I'm concerned about the idea of Tony Ferguson saying, I don't want to retire, because I think we all believe like, hey, this has been a great career, Tony. It's time. But to your point, like, it's not like he got roughed up. It's not like he got beat up. He got out grappled and subbed. But I'm not like, does anybody, if you're a Tony Ferguson fan, do you want to watch Tony Ferguson fight anymore? I got to this point with BJ Penn. Like I've been here. I have felt what you feel if you are a Tony Ferguson fan. I watched BJ Penn just get mollywopped every single time out, and it did not feel good. There was a point where no matter how hard I tried to convinced myself that there was going to be a change and he was going to look a little bit better. And, oh, now he's back with Marinovich and it's this weight class and it's that. There's never going to, the sun is not coming out tomorrow. It is done. The sun has set and it's not coming back up. And if you're a fan, like, do you even want to watch him? And if you're not a fan, I couldn't imagine why you'd want to watch him, because all he's doing is going in there and getting beat up. So I don't know. I don't know who this is for at this point anymore. The UFC has wrung everything they can out of Tony Ferguson. He's wrung everything he can out of being a UFC fighter. Maybe there's a world where he goes to a BKFC or a karate combat or something. He said he only wants to fight in the UFC. I think if they pay him enough, maybe he will find, another outcome there. Maybe he'll arrive at a different conclusion. But I'm not interested in seeing Tony fight. Like, and that's the worst indictment I think you can have on a fighter is like, there's lots of guys win or lose, or girls win or lose. Like, you still want to see them fight. I don't want to see Tony Ferguson fight because it's not particularly competitive or compelling. So I am done, with the Tony Ferguson experience, but it doesn't seem like he is.
Yeah, considering Tony Ferguson was must-see television for most of his career, to now be in a spot where it's like, oh, I must not see this, is pretty tough. And as you correctly pointed out, us BJ Penn fans, we know. I've been trying to tell Shaheen for a long time. You just gotta let that part of you die, because it's not fun. Fortunately, this time though, Jose, like I said, it didn't go as bad as it could have. He didn't suffer a lot of trauma, but I do kind of want your thoughts on what Rick and I just sort of spoke to. Is there a world where the UFC brings him back? This is still a guy who was one of the most popular fighters there this week. You heard the crowd when Dana Cormier gave him the mic, and sort of overcome by emotion. The crowd doesn't want Tony to stop, and he doesn't want to stop. Should the UFC keep letting him do this?
Probably not, and I don't think they will. I don't know how. Yeah, he's one of those popular fighters of all time. I don't know how you can justify giving a guy on an 8-fight losing streak another shot. Dana White has already said he wants this and he hopes this is his last fight and retire. I can't see a world where Tony Ferguson ever lets Conor McGregor write his checks at BKFC, just knowing the history between those two. So I think we can cross out BKFC real quick. PFL, I don't think we'll take him either. I don't want to see Tony Ferguson in a tournament, and I especially don't want to see him fight these young guys in these super fight leagues. I just don't know where he can go. There's not really anyone I want to see him fight in PFL either. All the fighter, and I don't even. Who would you give him? Like, say they do bring him back to the UFC. Who would he fight? Who's out there? Like the Michael Chiesa fight, I made it known on the previous show. I thought this was a good matchup just for based on where they both are in their careers. Like Michael Chiesa isn't close to a title shot. He's not ranked. They're both tough winners from over a decade ago that were matched up at one point. Like, who do you give him Nick Diaz at welterweight? Because I don't think anyone really wants to see two old guys that aren't as limber as they were fight in an octagon. I just don't know who you give him. Do I want to see Tony Ferguson fight? I want to see Tony Ferguson fight for the rest of my life. I just don't know who you can justify giving him. There's no one outside of the UFC. Like, if he fought Conor McGregor at BKFC, then now we're talking, because Tony Ferguson is going to make a boatload of money, and he deserves it. Outside of that, there's really no one else I want to see him fight at all, in the UFC or not.
There's certainly no one I want to see him fight.
I mean,
you could sell me on two.
I mean, fuck it. Do him versus Habib in Craig Jones's thing. The next time they do Craig Jones' thing, just do that. Or have him do the fight pass grappling.
Grappling I'm all good with. Grappling I'm all good with. Yeah,
100%.
Grappling's fine. Grappling's great.
I am all in favor of him and Habib doing a quintet, like the Dagestani crew versus Tony Ferguson and his crew. I'm down to clown with that. I
don't know if Habib can make a weight class that Tony's going to be in these days, but maybe they can grapple at an open weight.
He was looking stout in there.
Hey, they did that. Dude, they did it in the quintet that Casey and I covered before the Colby Covington Usman won. That was the Pride versus WC versus Strikeforce type situation, and it was like fun. You lose, you get eliminated. They had Hector Lombard grapple Sean O'Malley. Like, fuck weight classes, bro. Hector Lombard was leaking juice out of his ears, and Sean O'Malley was still on suspension for that weird drive. It was like a 200-pound man grappling a 150-pound man. Fuck it. Just do that.
It's
Jed,
grappling.
you
That's
you
totally
said
fine.
there's two. You said there's two.
There-
What are your two?
There are two that I would accept. Again, I don't want any of this to happen. I would have liked Tony to say, "Guys, I don't have it anymore. I'm done. It's been an honor and
Tony
privilege,
will never.
etc."
There's not a day that will ever
I know
happen
these
that Tony
wasn't.
says this. Ever.
We're
Ever.
living in fantasy land here, Rick, where I was like, I would have liked that, but that wasn't gonna happen. I would accept Nick Diaz, like if that is the one that if you're like, okay, I'm like, all right, sure. I don't know who that's for other than Tony and people who haven't watched MMA in 5 years, but that's at
10.
least doesn't make me feel icky, you know?
It's never
10
going to
years.
happen because Nick Diaz is already on record saying he's not going to fight anyone that is brother.
It's the
never
brother
gonna
thing.
happen.
Yeah.
It's
the
never
big
going to
thing.
happen.
Well, then that just leaves one. And
So
Rick, I
shut
threw
up,
this out
Jed.
in Slack, and you were very upset about it. And it's Dustin Poirier.
This is so
because-
crazy. This is so
Look,
crazy.
Imagine,
I have
bro.
said for 2 years now, Tony needs to retire, but the only way he's going to retire is if someone beats him into it. He can't have moments of success or like not getting hurt. He needs to get bludgeoned to where everyone's like, you got to quit, dude. Dustin will deliver that, and then Dustin gets to leave. Dustin clearly is like pretty ready to retire. And so if he just gets a W, he can end on a good note. It'll be kind of sad, but double retirement, and that'll be fine. It's cruel, but sometimes you got to be cruel to people because you love them so much. And that's where I'm at with this.
Besides the fact that Dustin will beat the living hell out of him, there's also the fact that like Dustin Poirier has very finite amount of fights left, and I don't want to see one of those wasted on beating the living shit out of Tony Ferguson. That feels like a waste of a Dustin Poirier fight.
Correct.
Sometimes you got to do it, man.
What
just
I
has to be
predict
done.
will happen is he's gonna fight like Anthony Pettis in Karate Combat. Some nonsense that like, yeah, we're
God,
calling back
that'll
two
be
legends and
awful.
they're gonna do it, and nobody is particularly interested in it. It's time. It's time for Tony. And everybody but him seems to be on the same page. And look, at the end of the day, he is a grown man who makes these decisions, and he's gonna do what he's gonna do. Hopefully the team around him is advising him and making sure that he's as ready as he possibly be for these competitions. He seems there's a weird, like, Tony Ferguson seems to be principled to a certain degree, right? Like, as an example, when the fight got moved in the pandemic, he went and made weight randomly, right? He was like, I said I was going to make weight on this date, and he just decided, hey, he's going to make weight.
Of his downfall.
There's that was not a great.
Then he fought like 6 weeks later, had to cut weight again, and got clubbed.
That was not a great move for him. But I say that all to say, like, he has been pretty consistent about, I don't want to fight anywhere but the UFC. Let's take him at his word for now. Hopefully that is the case, and the UFC says, Tony, we can't keep doing this, and then he does not fight MMA or fight something similar outside the UFC. Grappling would be sick. I'd love the idea of Khabib versus Tony in a grappling match. So let's just give him the benefit of the doubt for now. Hope that he sticks to his word there, does not fight outside the UFC, and then we can celebrate Tony and stop making this the story of Tony's career.
I don't know. We shouldn't take fighters at their words. Plenty of fighters have said that and then fought their happy asses outside the octagon.
I just predicted Pettis versus Ferguson is what we'll actually get, but I hope we can take him at his word.
I think let's do Tony versus BJ. Let's bring BJ out of retirement
Jesus
for the
Christ.
saddest fight in MMA history.
Jesus Christ.
Maybe not the saddest, but it's pretty up there. You know who's not sad today? The few of us, the proud few still on Mackenzie Dern Island, because she comes out and she gets a win over Lupe Godinez. Unanimous decision, 29-28 across the board. Had some moments grappling, as she always is wont to do. Even finished like a real grown-up double leg takedown. I was super proud of her for that. Didn't get a lot of takedowns, though, and mostly won this with aggression and a pretty decent showcase of her jab on the feet. Just kind of outworking Godinez. Jose, we obviously talked about this fight on the preview show and kind of how Mackenzie Dern has not really risen to what is clearly a very high ceiling for her. Does this, performance against a tough up-and-comer change your opinion on where Mackenzie Dern can go? Is this like, it's good to see her developing, or is this just a win in a career that will be full of many?
Mackenzie Dern is going to be one of those fighters that is always going to be in an exciting fight. She's she gets punched and it reacts. So it seems like any time she's in a fight, whether it's against a grappler, striker, whoever, it's gonna look a lot more exciting than maybe it is, because she doesn't seem to be getting hit hard. She's just reacting to everything. I don't think she's ever going to fight for a UFC title. And if she does, it might just be because long reigning champion has kind of cleared out the division, and Mackenzie Dern just is the last woman standing that she hasn't fought yet. So, but she's gone on these long win streaks, and she falters. Like, she's lost to the Jessica Andrades of the world that just beat the crap out of her. And it seems like every time she gets there, she's like, oh, and then she loses, and she's like, oh, I'm going back to my roots. I learned how to wrestle and grapple, and I'm not in love with striking anymore. And then she gets knocked out by Jessica Andrade and then picks up a win over Lupi Godinez. So I don't know. I'm always going to watch her tune in. I haven't really changed my mind on where she's at in her career, because this wasn't one of those, standout performances by her. But I'm always going to want to watch her fight. She is in a division that people kind of look down upon, unfortunately, because the women's strawweight division is very exciting. She remains one of the more exciting fighters, win or lose, and she's down to seems down to fight anybody. So, which is also important.
She is one of the more exciting fighters. She is tied currently for second most post-fight bonuses in the weight class. She's only behind Jessica Andrade, who is, been doing this forever, and also one of the most exciting fighters ever. So great performance from her. Rick, are you swimming back to Mackenzie Dern Island? Do you want to join me and Shaheen Al-Shadi? Because there's room. A lot of people left.
What
we have room for
Eric,
people to come
before
back.
you answer that, Eric, why are you swimming? Why are you swimming back? Where did you go?
I was never there.
Yeah,
I
me
never
neither.
even took a visit to Mackenzie Dern
Me
Island,
neither.
and I will not be starting now. So
Cowards.
you can count me out. Go ahead, Jose. What?
Jed, who is she beating? Like, who are her last few wins?
Look,
Lupi?
it's not about who she's beaten. It's about who she's looked good against in moments. And if this is the same kind of delusion.
Who she looks good against? Didn't look good against Amanda Lemos. Didn't look good against Jessica Andrade. Didn't look good against Yan Xiaonan. Didn't look good.
No, she looked amazing against Yan Xiaonan. The first round, she spent the whole time in mount, and then she looked bad.
Great. She looked great in one round, and then she
Correct.
lost bad. And then she's beat Lupi, never going to fight for the title. Angela Hill, I love Angela. I love you. And then Tisha Torres, who's probably going to retire soon, and then Nina News, is retired. Yeah, she beat
Also,
Verna.
she probably
Verna's a
lost
good
to
one.
Tisha Torres.
Yeah, exactly. And Verna is a good one. I will give her that. Verna's a good one. Hannah Cyphers. She beat Hannah Cyphers, Jed. Do you know who that is? Probably not. And Randa Marcos.
Randa Marcos.
Who's retired.
Excuse me.
Okay.
But we've
Retired.
talked about this. It's the same Tony delusion where there were moments in the fight where you're like, oh, that could be the best fighter. If she could do that all the time, that would be great. And so that's why it's just me and Shaheen sitting on this island. And apparently, Rick, you never joined us. And so I guess you're not joining now.
I've never even come close. I've never even looked at flights. I'm out. I've never been interested in this. The Lupi win's good, though. I rate that. I rate what she did today. I think that's solid. But again, like, it depends on what your expectations of Mackenzie Dern are. If your expectations are UFC champion, I think she's going to ultimately fall short of that. I just think there's too many good people in these weight classes that are going to be able to expose her to a certain degree. While she continues to improve her aggressiveness with the striking, and she continues to kind of short up some holes, like, at the end of the day, it still just never looks good on the feet. Like, she tries her best, and she's tough as all get up. Like, she is gifted an incredible chin and incredible toughness. So that allows for some mistakes to be made in the striking, but it just never looks too fluid. It never looks too clean. It never looks like she's able to kind of mix the two together. But damn, when she gets you on the ground, it is hell. It is hell. You are in moments of real panic when she's got you in the ground. Either she's on her back or she's on top. They're equally dangerous. And so she just, the only way it usually gets there is like she gets knocked down, she knocks somebody down. The wrestling is just not there. The mixing of the phases is not there. Ultimately, I don't think she'll have the complete game to be a UFC champion, but she's going to put on fun fights and she can hang around the rankings, and that'll be a great career for her. I don't think there's any shame in that. One of the most decorated female jiu-jitsu competitors turned really like exciting UFC fighter is a damn good career. So it just depends on the expectation. I think the championship dreams have finally sunset and maybe did 2 or 3 fights ago.
Haters one and all. The last fight on the main card. We don't have to talk about this a lot because it's obviously not to the same level as the other ones, and it was such a just one-sided ass beating. Joel Alvarez continues to be my favoriteest boy by clubbing Ellsbrenner just around the cage. He was the first man to stop Ellsbrenner in his MMA career with just a bevy of knees. Jose, we were talking a little off air about this. Joel Alvarez, he rocks.
Yeah, he's real good. I don't think he's ever going to fight for the title. I don't think he's ever going to be a top 5 fighter solely because the lightweight division is just supremely talented and the best division in mixed martial arts. But, you know, if he fights anyone in that like 7 to 15 range, it's probably a 50-50 fight, and that's just because lightweight division is so talented, and you could be ranked 15th and just still be an elite fighter. Joel Alvarez, beating Thiago Moises was a big deal. I do remember that. But losing to Arman Sarukian, I was always like, was the hype train? Was it just a hype train? And then he choked out Mark Diakese with a Bravo choke, which is uber impressive, and then beat Elvis Brenner with about 1,000 knees to the face and body, which was just supremely impressive. Like anytime you can go from submitting a guy like because Mark Diakese has a grappling background, to beat a guy with a grappling background and then go out there and beat Elvis Brenner, who comes from shoot to boxing in the clinch with knees. Very impressive performances by Joel Alvarez, and he's going to be a guy that I hope. I called out King Green. Don't like that fight. Didn't like that call out. I don't care about call outs. Really don't. But I would, if you are going to call someone out, maybe don't call out a guy who had his arm broken while also getting choked unconscious the week before. Don't know who he's going to fight next. Don't like the King Green call out, but I'm sure the UFC is going to try to book that at some point. Yeah, maybe is Jalen Turner have a fight because they're both like 7 feet tall in the 55-pound division.
Let me look if Jalen Turner has a fight.
That's where I was going to go with it. I'm not convinced he's a lightweight. I'm not convinced him and Jalen Turner are lightweights. Like they feel like
Jalen Turner's not a lightweight.
They're so small. Jalen's like 6'3", and how tall is Joel Alvarez? He's got to be close, if not the same.
I think
he's 6'3".
I could be wrong.
Yeah, so let's watch. You know what? I'm down to watch 2 welterweights fight 155 pounds.
He's a little lighter in the ass than Jalen Turner. Like he's got some real twigs for legs. He's not particularly like yoked out kind of dude, but he's just too big, and I can't imagine that's a really nice weight cut for him. But man, he's exciting as all get up. Like he's just so clean. He's just so crisp, and he's kind of nasty with it too. So I'm a big fan. I'm like Jose. I don't have championship aspirations for him, but he can be and lightweight is a great division to be in so many of these. Hey, I'm going to fight BSD and we're just going to go to war. Hey, I'm going to fight Dan Hooker and we're just going to go to war.
You know what?
I love all that.
I want to see him fight Drew Dober. That's what I want.
Drew Dober, let's go to war. I love him. I love every single one of these.
I'm down with that.
There's so many guys that he can do this with. So yeah, let's do it. But I don't know. I mean, is he going to be a lightweight for much longer? Who knows?
That's true.
He's missed weight before, unless I'm mistaken. I believe he has, but
I don't know off the top of my head.
I think he has, but I'm
yes, he has.
Yeah, twice maybe.
Correct.
Yeah,
twice.
I mean, look, I don't want to prematurely push. I don't want to prematurely push the guy to welterweight because he made weight, this fight. So I'm not particularly like concerned about it. But
missed weight in 3 years. So
how many times has he fought in those 3 years though?
4. Oh, 3. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, look, maybe it's premature to even be talking about that, but he just looks so massive for the weight class. It can't be comfortable. But either way, as we've all kind of said, there's so many of these guys who are just going to stand there and throw with him, and he's going to be willing to stand there and throw back. Although he does have that sneaky grappling game. Like he really is sneaky once he gets into those submissions. I like him. I'm a big fan, and we'll tune in every time. Alvarez versus Tony Ferguson?
No. That's just mean. What I would very much like them to pull Renato Moicano out of the BSD fight. Let's do BSD and let's do Moicano and Patty. Let's do BSD and Alvarez.
Hell yeah!
Like that fight would just be so goddamn fun.
Let's do it.
I don't really care.
I love this plan. Let's do that.
That would be unbelievably fun. Yeah, the Bobby Green or the King Green. Sorry, a call out's a bad one. King Green's not even ranked anymore, but Who cares? It was a terrific performance.
I like the thought process though. Like he needs a name,
Yeah.
right? He has the loss to Armin, but he needs like a performance that people are going to be like, oh, I need to pay attention to this guy because this is happening. We all as people who consume this at the highest possible level know how good Elvis Brenner is. Like he's a savage, and so but that's not going to move the casual. Like you get on the opener of a pay-per-view card and you beat a guy like King Green or in the featured prelim on ESPN, and all of a sudden people might go, okay, I'm going to pay attention to that guy, especially if he hits some kind of insane submission or nasty knockout. So I get the thought process. Probably the wrong name though. Probably not the guy.
What's Beneil Dariush doing?
Oh man, that'd be interesting.
It'd be a fun fight.
That's a step up. It'd be fun. You just can't go wrong. There's no wrong way to eat the lightweight Reese's.
Because lightweight rules.
Lightweight does rule. And guys like Joel Alvarez are why I think that it's the best weight class.
And more importantly, he's he's Spanish, which is a market
that's true.
He's really trying to break into.
That's true.
And speaks great English.
It's true.
He's got a lot going for him. I'm excited to see him keep going. Love that dude. Rest of the results rundown, and then boys, we got bonuses. We'll play the guess the bonus game. Azamat Murzakanov, I don't know why I got real Southern right there, knocks out Alonzo Minifield in the second round. Pretty nasty finish there.
Yeah.
I don't remember how to pronounce it. Kai Fernandez stops Muhammad Yahya in the first round TKO. The first finish of the card, because we had a whole lot of decisions to start the night. Shamil Gaziev takes a UD over Dontel Mays. Guram Kutateladze takes a UD over Jordan Vucinic. Sam Hughes upset split decision victory over Victoria Dudikova. Jai Herbert takes a UD over Rolando Bedoya. And in the event opener, Cedric Dumas wins a UD over Dennis Tululin. Fellas, we got bonuses. Would you care to guess who takes home fight of the night and the performance of the night bonuses this card?
I'm going to say Umar and Cory for fight. I'm going to say Joel and Murzakanov for performances.
Jose, do you agree?
I'll say Joel and Azamat for performances for sure. And for fight, I bet it should be Cory and Umar, but based on how the UFC gives out performances, they basically use them as marketing at this point. I bet they gave it to Shara Bullet just so we could get a bonus.
Oh, God, I hope not.
Jose is 100% correct. Joel Alvarez, Azamat Murzakanov.
See, this is why what I always, when people ask me, who do you think won a fight based on judging? Who do you think to this? I never look at it like a reasonable person. I try to look at it as if it doesn't make sense, which is what MMA is. Silly.
Very silly.
How?
I mean,
how?
It's
credit
so
to
dumb.
Oleksiejczuk.
That's so stupid.
Yeah, credit to Oleksiejczuk for taking an ass beating, but that was not a competitive fight, and certainly the main event.
Nor did it live up to the expectations of that fight. Like that fight had expectations that they were going to stand and scrap, and it just didn't live up to that. Like I can't imagine how Umar versus Cory wasn't the highest level MMA we'll see in the next couple weeks. Like I don't get it.
I'm fairly surprised, but Jose nailed it, and I mean, that's the full card. So let's go to the peeps. Casey, hop on in here. Best producer in the game. Man's been manning the show all day, and now we're back. Casey, you were supposed to not be here tonight because you were supposed to be watching some very good boxing that is starting soon or has started. I'm not certain if it's started yet or not.
The undercard starting. I don't think the pay-per-view portion has started. But
pay-per-view won't have started.
I was supposed to be, sitting down at BMO Stadium right down the street and preparing to watch Eminem, set the stage for the main event, but no, I got a email this morning from the wonderful people at I don't even know, Matchroom, maybe. I'm not even sure who the PR company was. Yeah, they just said
it's Matchroom.
Yeah, they just kind of said, turns out we don't have any seats for you guys, so here's a ticket. But you can't actually bring any equipment into the arena because you're coming in as a fan, and you are not welcome to come to the actual post presser to, even shoot it on your phone. I don't even know. So, so I'm here with you guys. And so I missed some of the fights. Even though I was so hyped for this card, I actually missed some of the big fights on this Abu Dhabi card because I was like, well, I might as well get some lunch, because I'm going to have a long day. Then when I come back from lunch, I go, oh, I guess I'm here with you. So that's my story. First time that's ever happened. And 18 years I've worked in the sport. I covered all the pre-fight events, and then fight night, like, nah, you can't come in. First time. It's yeah.
Man,
Riyadh
Casey.
season. Riyadh season off to a great start.
And I thought our experience at the Jake Paul event last month was tough, but this one seems.
Well, I got to go to the Jake Paul event, so that was.
We did at least get to attend.
Yeah, and you took a photo with the little air.
Yes, that's a thing that happened.
The W can.
The W guy.
That's a thing that occurred. Tough scenes. Well, because we're not there, that event doesn't exist. So nobody watch it. Nobody pay attention to boxing, because obviously they don't want anyone to pay attention to it if they can't have media there.
It was. But we do have. But we have lots of super chats. So let's hit the super chat.
I'd say truly insane, but I know I've seen super chats rolling in. I know the peeps have a lot to say about this card. So let's get to it. Super chat from Mr. Senor Pepe. What could Sean/Merab do to beat Umar? I think it's a really good question.
I think the game plans would be very straightforward. The execution of them is going to be extremely difficult. Like for Sean, it's using angles, moving, not letting him get in on his legs, not letting him close the distance, and just peppering him with kicks and punches from the outside. How easy that's going to be is how they have the meme difficulty level impossible. That's the difficulty level impossible. I just don't see a world where he's able to keep Umar off for 5 rounds. That just seems not possible. For Merab, I think it's probably doing what Umar is trying to do, but in reverse. Using his striking to make it rough and dirty and not a clean fight where somebody can settle in, using his pace and weaponizing it as he does to everybody, and being the aggressor when Umar is trying to be the aggressor and putting it back on him. Whoever takes the backward steps in that fight is probably the one who's going to lose. You need to be on the front foot and you need to be pressing forward. I like his chances. I like Merab's chances against Umar a lot more than I like Sean O'Malley's. But it seems like obvious, right? It seems like the game plan to win is obvious. The actual can you do it is where that becomes a hell of a hard problem.
Jose, do you agree?
Yes, Umar is probably the more well-rounded fighter against Sean O'Malley, but I have seen Sean O'Malley grapple against extremely high-level black belts, and it's training camp or it's in camp, so of course everyone gets tapped, but he is more than holding his own. So I think Sean O'Malley is a very underrated grappler. Umar just mixes it up very well. We haven't seen Sean have to do that at all. So it's kind of a mystery when he's in there how he can use his grappling with his striking, because we've seen Umar do that. But I do agree with Eric's assessment against Merab. First person to step back is probably going to be on the back pedal for a long time in that fight. And we've said it a million times, can he stop the takedown? I'm not saying that about this fight. I'm just saying that as a broad answer. Great, you stopped one. Can you stop it again? Because stopping the first one and then getting taken out 7 times is not great. So if you fight Sean, I am confident Sean will stuff several takedowns. Doesn't mean Umar's going to stop trying for it. And stuffing takedowns is exhausting.
I am very interested to see both matchups now. I am gonna differ and say I think Sean has a better chance to beat Umar than Merab does. I get what you guys are saying. I just don't think that the way you beat Umar is to do his game better. I think that's just not going to go very well for you.
That makes sense.
Whereas I think Sean O'Malley can, particularly after this fight, can now he has a lot to go and look and be like, I have a similar body type to Cory Sandhagen, and how did Cory Sandhagen fight this off? As soon as he got in, he'd turn and give up that back, but then he started rolling. Because Sean O'Malley can grapple. He now knows some effective weapons to break the hands, clear, get back to space. And he is a more potent, dangerous single-shot striker than Cory is. So I'm super clear. Picking Umar to beat anyone in the world at 135. But I am more interested in the Sean O'Malley fight than I was before, just because Cory had so much success in certain phases that Sean, I think, can replicate. So pumped, just super want to see him fight these dudes. Been wanting to see him fight the top guys in this weight class for a long time. And now it looks like we're going to get that, which is awesome for all of us because that's pretty dope.
Yeah, it's weird. I think of O'Malley, I think O'Malley has a better chance of finishing Umar, but Merab versus
agree.
Umar would actually be a more competitive fight, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
You know, yeah.
It's my thought on the I've come down pretty firmly on I think Arman Tsarukyan's great. I think he has very, very little chance of beating Islam. He will be competitive for 5 rounds and just kind of lose all of them and lose the fight. Whereas somebody who has just explosive one-shot offense has a better chance of winning the fight, even though when they lose, it will probably look a lot worse than when Arman loses.
Yeah, we're kind of seeing the same thing.
Yeah. I think we can all actually agree on that sentiment. But I will say, I think on a bad night for Umar, he can still probably defeat the one-shot guy, right? Versus if he has a bad night against Merab, that could go south real quick. Because if Merab is able to do an impersonation of Umar better than Umar on that night, then he's going to pick up some rounds. And so I think it's all in the risk management and all in the percentages, but I mean, I don't know if I'd pick either of them against Umar right now. He impressed the hell out of me, and it's just, as we said at the top, that wrestling is so good that it just defeats all the other parts of the game. It falls apart because you're so focused on it, and it's such a load. And it's not like this is catching anybody by surprise, because we saw Khabib and then Islam in maybe the first half of his UFC run do this successfully to so many people. Yeah.
I'm going to nerd out for a second. What I really like about Umar is that, and what I kind of like about all of the Abdul Manap guys, they're all different. The broad strokes feel the same, but Khabib's game was a lot of power and athleticism and singles into doubles. That was his primary thing. And then chain wrestling in sequences. Basically every takedown Umar hit is a snatch single to a snap down and then just a roll. Jack Slack did a breakdown on his thing, and it's awesome. It's just he's going about the same core concepts in very stylistically different ways than the way Khabib fights or the way Islam fights or the way Usman fights, and it's just dope to see them all be unbelievably good, but with their own kind of panache to it.
Usman definitely feels like the biggest outlier, though. He definitely feels like the biggest outlier of that group, and even Islam to an extent. You definitely don't get the sense when Islam's fighting that he's hunting the takedown as much as the other guys are. He's so comfortable on the feet, and he just mixes it in when he needs to, and it's always perfectly timed.
Islam is exactly if you just think of Islam as the dude who fought Khabib every day in camp, then you figure it right. Your style is exactly what it would be if you had to fight Khabib every day for your entire life.
I never thought of it that way.
It all just makes sense that way.
That's
it's
great.
Nick and Nate Diaz are exact polar opposites because all they did was fight each other all the time. And so you're I see how you develop.
Funny. That's very funny.
Thank you much.
Thank you, Senor Pepe.
Yeah, but real quick on Umar, because I didn't get to jump in earlier, but man, give credit to Jed. Everything you've kind of sold me on Umar, it showed up tonight. I picked Cory to win, not because I didn't believe Umar couldn't win. I just love Cory Sandhagen, but Umar was super impressive. His striking was impressive. I think that just going 5 hard rounds was extremely impressive, and I think that's he
made better adjustments too. Cory Sandhagen gets lauded for being a tactician and a really good mind, and fairly should. And I think Umar just made better adjustments as the fight was going on.
Yeah, and I think we all think of Cory Sandhagen as a very intelligent fighter of a high fight IQ, and Umar beat him at that game too. And it was a competitive fight, of course, but Umar was just a little step ahead the whole fight.
It's just such a crushing style. It doesn't matter how good you are at the other things, because once they can implement their game plan, you really you run out of options. There really isn't much you can do at that point. I mean, every time Khabib is on you, you just have nothing else.
Just curtains.
It doesn't matter how good you are at the other things. You need to be really good at that thing, and they're just better. It's a brutal style. Shout out to them for just being that good at that.
I say it all the time when one of these guys fights. I don't think the MMA world stood up and took enough notice when Abdul Manap passed away. That dude has produced the best lightweight of all time, arguably the second best lightweight of all time, the next guy coming down the line in Usman, and now
And-
very possibly the best bantamweight on earth.
And to just them as a team, and to Habib in taking over the reins, and to Javier Mendez in welcoming them into AKA. Like they're just that good. They're all this good. And I think a lot of the people picking Cory or the questions around Umar were like, are they this good? And every time the answer has been, yeah, they really are this good. And it is insane. I think you're right. Like he deserves a lot of credit there.
Just an unbelievable crop of fighters that's come out of that, and it's awesome. I love watching them.
Another super chat from Senor Pepe. We kind of answered this already, but
doubling up for Senor Pepe. Yeah. If Tony fights again, who would you like him to fight? We popped to that, so we don't really need to touch on it again. But I think we all agree we would prefer him not to fight again.
Correct.
What about this? Someone mentioned this.
Tony versus Jim Miller. If you had to, like, it's not the worst idea I've ever heard, but
I would.
If you're making me fight one,
I would like that if they both agreed it was their last fight. But if it's just a fight for a fight, then nah.
It has gotten to the point where we are struggling to find fights that are compelling or interesting or competitive for Tony Ferguson. That's a very clear sign that it's done. That's
what I'm saying.
And that's a really good argument.
We don't need this anymore. We don't.
When you're having to scratch your head to find one that isn't awful, we should probably just cut our losses. It's literally.
Over. Who's this on? Is this on the UFC though? This is on
for keeping around too long. You mean like letting it go too far
and putting him in high-profile fights constantly?
Well, I don't think they're going to anymore. To my understanding, this was the final fight in his contract, and I would be surprised if they re-signed him.
Like the Gaethje fight, he was still on his win streak, so I don't think anyone
Gaethje makes sense.
That. Yeah. Charles Oliveira was in the middle of the pandemic, and he took that. He just kind of took that fight to stay fighting, and then
this is fine.
The Oliveira and Dariush fights were not close. He just got out grappled, and he looked good against Michael Chandler until he got kicked in the face. The Nate Diaz fight was sad, but that was
it wasn't supposed to be Nate Diaz, which was the real sad part about it. And then
I think the Bobby Green loss is when I was finally like, okay, enough is enough, because Bobby Green is not known as a high level grappler, and he chokes Tony Ferguson unconscious, who has always been called a high level grappler. That's when I was like, I don't think we need to see Tony fight anymore.
I don't think anybody's to blame ultimately. Tony wants to fight. The UFC has opportunities for him. They pay him and try to recoup their payment, right? He has a contract that they need to be able to say, when we pay him to fight, it has to be in a fight that matters and people are going to tune in for. Otherwise, we are wasting our money. It can't just be charity, right? It can't be like, Tony, we're going to give you the worst guy on the roster and you're going to fight on the prelims. It has to make sense financially for them, and it has to make sense for Tony. And so, I mean, this one seemed right. This seemed like the best option, right? I didn't think Tony's going to get particularly hurt in here against Michael Chiesa. So I don't know. I don't think anybody's to blame. I think it has just run its course and did quite a while ago, and now it's time.
Last thing on Tony real quick. Is there a way Tony can do the Arlovsky thing in the UFC?
Oh, hell no.
Nope.
Mm-mm.
Weight class is too good.
Yeah, that was the weight class.
Weight class is too good. Arlovsky's thing worked in part, and I've watched all of it. I've loved all of it. He's fighting a lot of garbage ass fighters to get wins.
Yeah. Also, it's not like Andre. It's also not like Andre is cutting weight and just he just shows up and fights.
Well, but you know what I'm trying to say. I'm just like,
I know,
because Arlovsky was getting paid good money, which I'm kind of a little argument against. You know, they say you say they pay Tony good money, so he has to put a good opponent against him. They were paying Arlovsky good money and throwing him on the second fight on Apex cards.
Putting on the prelims.
Here's the thing.
Life.
So I'm just.
They already have the UFC already has the lightweight Andre Arlovsky and Clay Guida. That's basically what he's doing.
That's not bad.
So here's Tony Ferguson for Clay Guida.
Nah.
Here's the big difference to me.
Keep running it over and over.
Arlovsky got discarded because they thought he was shot and his chin was shot, and they thought he was just shot born and that there was nothing left in him. When he came back and in this extended run, it's not like he's like deteriorated. Like he's kind of looked the same as he looked for the last 5 years. It's just not particularly good. It's just the same. Tony looks older and older and older and older every time we see him. it just
He
does
also-
not look good. And so it's that
He-
degradation that is
And
making a
It
difference.
also seems like every time he shows up, he has like a new corner. Like
And then-
Eddie
oh,
Bravo's
yeah,
now in his
totally.
corner, and then David
Injured.
Goggins is in his corner, and then he went back to his high school wrestling coach. It's like he keeps trying to find the
This-
answer, and nothing's working.
This feels a lot more BJ Penn than Andrei Arlovsky.
Yeah,
I'm going to
100%.
go to featherweight. I'm going to try this. I'm going to get back with this person. Me and Perillo, we're going to do it. He's searching for something that just is not there anymore. Arlovsky was just like, yeah, I'm going to keep doing what I do. And it just looked the same. It just looked the same the whole time against really bad competition.
Oh man,
Except Tom Aspinall.
Well, then that was the moment where they're like, oh, you got some wins, we'll do it. Casey, it can't ever happen outside of the heavyweight thing. That is the biggest factor. The other factor is like, I don't know if Andre would admit this, but pretty clearly Andrei Arlovsky recognized his limitations and then changed his entire game around them.
Oh.
Like, because his chin did go. He can't really take damage, and anybody who hit him killed him. But then his style entirely became about not taking damage and winning these awful clinch-infested things. And Tony does not have the introspection to be like, I can't do this anymore. He's just Tony. So even if he were at a worse weight class where maybe he could do it, I just don't think it's not in him to pull that off in the way that it was available to Andre to do.
Yeah. Just asking. So
No, I get it.
Tony
Worthwhile
Ferguson
question.
versus BJ Penn. I see it. I like it.
No,
It's a fight.
Please, Jesus
He's
Christ.
only 5 years older than Tony. Both men have not won in their last 8 fights.
Let these men
A lot of
wrestle,
things
please.
lining up there.
I beg you, please. Let my heart die.
Who's
need
got a
this
live
pain.
a watch party? Is just you on one side and Shaheen on the other. Just who cries first?
Just a terrible moment.
I think we just cry the whole time. I think it would just be crying. I don't know what else there would be on that.
All right, sorry about that. Okay, we got a lot of super chats. Okay, here we go.
Steven, boys, it used to be Tony time. Tell me some good memories. Also, can we get GC on BTL, please? I didn't even think to ask GC to hop on BTL this week, and I will no longer be in charge of that next week because Mike will be back. But I'll talk to him. I don't think that would be prohibited, certainly. As far as good Tony memories. So now's the point of the broadcast where I tell you guys, I actually never cared for Tony Ferguson. I was always a Habib dude from day one, and so he was my natural enemy. And while I respect a lot of what Tony did in the cage, like none of his fights jump out to me as like, oh yeah, that was a particularly like a memorable one to me because I just wasn't a fan in that regard. But what about y'all? Rick, I know you were also kind of Habib corner, but do you have some particularly happy memories?
Yeah, I was never one who thought Tony Habib was this like holy grail Shangri-La thing because I always thought Habib was going to beat him, but I was definitely fond of Tony. Like the style was just incredible. I have to go back quite a ways to find what it was. I mean, the Kevin Lee interim title win was a pretty damn good version of Tony, right? You kind of saw all the Tony things on display. The RDA fight was pretty great.
I think RDA is his best performance.
Yeah, there's not one that I'd say where it's like, there's not one moment of Tony that it's like, this is the one of the greatest moments in UFC history. I think it was more the vibe. Tony was a vibe. Tony was the guy who, on the way up, you just wanted to get behind, and it was such a clash with what Habib was that we all kind of like loved the drama of these two guys coming up at the same time and just winning so many consecutive fights. But to your point, like I don't think I have like this was the best Tony moment or the thing I'll never forget. It's more probably the press conference stuff, just saying like weird shit and carrying baseballs and being Tony. Just Tony being Tony is the stuff I'll remember, and not necessarily the fights. But there was plenty of performances where I was like, yeah, that dude's nasty. The elbows have always been such an important and brutal weapon for him. But yeah, it's hard for me to say like this one pinpoint fight moment. But I love Tony's character. I love Tony's personality, and always have.
Anything from you, Jose, in this regard?
I don't really take sides in rivalries. that's for fucking squares. But I think the time I thought like he won when he beat Ramsey Nijem, the Ultimate Fighter. I thought that was like, oh cool. Like I kind of assumed he was going to win. I always thought he was the best fighter on that. I actually watched that season because I was The Brock Lesnar JDS was because they were going to fight, and I was more interested in this rough and tough Brock Lesnar facing off against like the nicest human being in the world against JDS, and by association, I got a lot more Tony Ferguson than I thought I was going to get. And then I can't remember who he beat in the second fight, but his third fight I know for a fact was against Eve Edwards, and Eve Edwards had like 60 fights or something like that when they squared off. And at one point in time, I thought Eve Edwards was the best lightweight in the world. And I was like, oh, man, they're giving Tony Ferguson Eve Edwards after 2 fights. And then Tony Ferguson beat the shit out of Eve Edwards. And then he lost to Michael Johnson, I'm pretty sure. But then I think he beat Katsunori Kikuno, first person to knock him out. So those early Tony Ferguson fights were really fun. And my favorite memory of Tony would probably be, because I've been interviewing Tony for about 14 years at this point. He fought Justin Gaethje in the empty arena. And there were 2 media members on planet Earth who had a cage side seat. Me and John Morgan. And then when he left the ring, we were just sitting there typing, and he looked at us and he nodded, and then he came over behind us and gave us both big hugs and said, don't know how long I'm going to do this for more. Thanks for covering me. And I said, great. And then that was 4 years ago?
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
That's so the LeBron tweet.
Yeah. So that was cool. Like Tony, because it's rare when fighters come and say positive things about the media. But Tony coming and saying hi to me and John after he had just lost the biggest fight in his career was a good memory.
Okay, I just thought of something. This is a monumental duff by me. My favorite Tony moment is like the Tony moment, which is the hold on, I'm talking, brother. Don't make me ankle pick you to Fabricio Verdum. That's the moment.
I was there. Yes.
I mean, that moment at that the Ivy California thing where they used to do those media
LA.
days. That's the Tony moment. It's not in the cage, but that's the Tony moment, and I'll never forget that. And I was just thinking about that recently because somebody said we should have those as a soundboard.
I sent that audio to Frank, so
look at you, Casey.
Yeah,
look at you.
That's still one of our biggest videos ever on our YouTube channel. That shot.
And I think the thing for Tony too is, I think a lot of there's not been that big spectacular moment in the cage, but he's really one of those fighters that, because like MMA fans are very weird, and Dana White, they just believe everything Dana White says and usually take Dana White's side. But it seems like everyone was very pro Tony Ferguson when he wasn't getting those title shots. Like every fan Q&A, there'd be like 4 fighters being like, oh, when's Tony getting his title shot? And Dana White's like, well, I don't know. So I feel like Tony was the first fighter that the fans were like, yo, fuck you, Dana White. Give him his title shot.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if we go back in time, it was Habib, pull-out merchant, this and that. The fans were with Tony. If we go back in time and go back to that moment, it was Habib who was the ire of the fans, and Tony was the hero of the story. But yeah, I love Tony.
I dug up my favorite Tony memory because I was trying to find it while you guys were talking, and it was at like one of the pre-fight media days before the Pettis fight, or is like life's a rat race. I'm not a rat. I'm a fucking turtle. Ninja Turtle. Which one's your favorite? I like Michelangelo. Next question. It's just like the most insane sequence.
I'm so happy. I was about to say that. I shot that. And I was just like,
that was my first.
So good.
That was my first week at MMA fighting, and you guys were all on site. And then so Casey would send me the footage to edit. And I remember there was someone that won't be named that was like, this is dumb. We're not putting this out. I'm like, no, you're incorrect. I know this is like my 6th day here, but I'm going to post this. And it took off.
It's the most insane quote. That's awesome.
I lose the logic and then I'm back. I'm like, what? Yeah. Okay, I'm back.
I love the ending of my favorite's Michelangelo. Next question.
This is why this sucks so bad, though, is because his entire thing was he makes us all so happy, right? The whole Tony thing was like he says something that makes you happy. He does something weird that makes you happy, or we think is weird that he thinks is perfectly normal. His fights are thrilling. He's just this guy that brings so much joy and did bring so much joy to so many people. And so it is hurtful and sad to see it end this way, where it's like nobody's enjoying this. His fans are not enjoying this, and it's difficult. And I can't imagine he's enjoying it, like getting prepared for these fights every single time and then not getting the result he wanted. So it's the juxtaposition of like how good it was when Tony was good. Like it was just so good. It was so much fun. The vibes were fucking immaculate.
Go on Fight Pass and rewatch Tony Ferguson versus a prime Edson Barboza.
Oh, that was a good one too.
One of my favorite. That was a fight for
Yeah.
me because I was big on Barboza at the time. I was like, and I'm pretty sure it was a good comeback by Tony. It was some crazy fight. I was just like, these people are not human. You know, they're built different. I mean, that was one of those fights. I'm like, these guys are just built different, and that was one of those moments. But thank you for the question. It was fun talking. It was fun thinking of happy thoughts about Tony.
It was. If he'd ever fucking retire, we could do a damn on him.
Yeah. All right. So many super chats. Let's do this.
Let's do this. Michael Harris admitted Jed Mackenzie Dern is the Michael Chandler of women's MMA. I will not admit that.
It's not
Dern
bad.
is fun, and I like her, and Michael Chandler sucks, and I hate him.
It's not bad. Not bad, Michael Harris. This is decent by you.
Like, part of me hates to say this. Michael Chandler is substantially more accomplished than Mackenzie Dern is. He has substantially better, more meaningful wins than Mackenzie Dern has in MMA. So yeah, no, I refuse. Also, there is a world where Mackenzie Dern puts it all together and challenges for a title.
Oh,
Michael
yeah.
Chandler is not putting anything together at this point. His career is down.
Yeah.
Let me live my dreams, Rick.
I love that. I love how you had to give some kudos to Michael Chandler. Good for you.
I didn't like it. I didn't care for that.
Didn't like it. Felt weird.
Lopsided. Who won worst call out, Shara or Alvarez? I mean, Shara's was substantially worse, but we kind of already touched on this.
Yeah.
Neither of them are like, man, you wasted your opportunity. One of them was so bad that it literally offended my ears, and the other was just a missed opportunity, but it's fine. It didn't really make a huge difference for him.
Who did Alvarez call out? I forgot. Oh, Bobby Green.
King Green.
Yeah,
King Green.
Oh, King Green. My bad. All right.
Which get it together, Getty. That's he's
Yeah.
still listed.
Oh,
on
yeah.
there.
Getty's not on top of that. Nathan Andrews is grabbing a fistful of drawers, the new strat. Well,
Did
that
that
was
happen
the
tonight? I missed that.
That was the
Shamil
heavyweight.
Gaziev.
The heavyweight
Was
fight.
that the Gaziev?
Oh, Gaziev did that? Okay, I didn't see that.
Oh,
I think they both did it.
Oh, wow.
Somebody
All right.
did it. Oh, so no, it was
I'll tell
Dontail did it because Dontail did it so bad that Keith Peterson went up to him, stopped the action in a clinch, went up and was like, hey, I gave you an opportunity to let go. I'm going to take a point. And Dontail Hayes was like, no, don't do that. And he was like, okay, I'll just give you a warning, but you're going to lose the position. Like Dontail Hayes effectively lobbied to not have a point taken from him.
Hey,
And
good
Keith
for you.
Peterson was like, okay, fine.
Don't make me enforce the rules.
Don't make me enforce the rules.
Yeah, we just keep learning. Referees really don't want to do it. They're like,
They
"Please
really don't
make
want
me
to
the
do
job."
anything.
Yeah.
That might be my favorite
okay.
quote the whole year. Don't make me enforce the rules.
Enforce the rules.
I love it. I'm gonna say yeah until proven otherwise. Like
Oh.
go grab those drawers and just pull
But
them
yes,
up and let's see what
cheat.
happens. Or down rather.
I know that Jose disagrees because cheating is bad. It's not even cheating; it's just legal. They don't tell you not to do it, so it's legal.
Yup.
All right.
Oh, something's going on outside Jose's.
Someone's popping off.
New York,
Oh,
baby.
New York City. It never sleeps. That's what they say.
They love apples.
Particularly not at 7:50 p.m.
Yeah.
They're
Oh,
just-
this
they're
is
just-
weird.
Achilles, I'm sorry. I do owe you an apology. I lied to you and said Eric wasn't going to be on the post show at the pre-fight Q&A. But Achilles has showed up. The belly flopper, a Celtics and Red Hulk fan, the undefeated MMA legend, and then the Temu version of Ariel this week. Bing Rips, flame emoji, Cruz, Ruiz, Crawford. Yes, I mean, all three of those are going to
Yeah.
win. But Rick, we know that Achilles is really speaking to you specifically, so please take the floor.
No, there's nothing to say. Timu version of Ariel, I accept it gladly. If I
Temu
can
has a
even-
great deal.
Yeah, Timu's great. I love Timu. I order from Timu all the time. So yes, thank you, Achilles. This is high praise and a high compliment. I did not expect that from you. So thank you.
Thank you much, Achilles.
Boom. Thanks, Achilles. That honestly one of the nicer ones you've fired at us, Achilles. So support that. Nathan Andrews, should Javi Mendez be the first coach in the UFC Hall of Fame? Literally coached from Umar back to the first light heavyweight champion in Frank Shamrock. I don't know if he should be the first coach. Also, like arguably Pat Miletich is already in the Hall of Fame, and is a substantial coach in MMA history. But I would certainly be open to Javi Mendez getting. They don't really do this, but I would love to see Javi Mendez. Frankly, I would love to see Abdul Manap get enshrined in the UFC Hall of Fame. I think it would be well earned.
I think a handful of coaches should eventually go into the UFC Hall of Fame. They'll never do it, but
They might. I mean, they
nice.
have the contributors wing, and it's like at some point that
do.
would be a
Maybe.
fine thing to do, you know. But
Yeah, Matt Serra also in the
Matt Serra
Hall
is
of
also
Fame.
in there, though. I would say that that's not. I don't think it's the primary reason Milicic is in there, but I think that there's more of an argument that Milicic his coaching career is doing some heavy lifting. They haven't enshrined Mike Thomas Brown, have they? I would say MTB 100% at this point
No,
would
haven't.
also deserve.
They just need to do a WEC class and he can get in.
Oh, yes, that would also be dope.
But
yeah,
I mean,
maybe one day.
we gave a lot of love to Javier earlier. Like, I think we all here respect the hell out of all the different eras of fighters that he's coached and what AKA has been all about.
Yeah, man. You don't see, like, when you think about it, Javier did this. Milicic had a moment and is no longer really a thing. What AKA has managed to do for 20 some odd years is incredibly impressive in the space.
All right, thank you.
What always happens with this, though, is like people don't know how much credit to give to Javier and how much to give to the Dagestani side of things. And it just becomes this like, who gets the credit? And the reality is like, all your coaches get the credit. That's how this should work.
I had a dude in my Twitter be like, yeah, Javier doesn't deserve any credit. He just brought them over. I was like, who do you think taught them how to kickbox? Because I've watched Habib strike. He did not teach these dudes how to kick and throw hands.
Also,
So,
who gives a fuck? Like,
Yeah.
bringing them over, coach of the year. The moment you brought them over,
an
you're a fucking
unbelievable
legend.
collaboration.
Yeah. This is the thing. Like the share of the pie thing is like so stupid to me. Like they're all they're all their coaches. That is how that works. Like they have not left, right? If Javier
He's in
was
every corner
not
every time.
responsible for it, then they wouldn't use him. Like if he was providing nothing to them, they wouldn't use him. And so it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. Shout out to Javi.
Yeah. Have you ever talked to Mendez? Just kind of one-on-one, not even on the record, just kind of chit-chatting with him?
Several times. When we were trapped on Fight Island for all
Oh.
those weeks, he had a lot of fighters there.
Yeah. Man, he's a dude that he like my Mendez story, the guy doesn't bullshit, and he was one of the guys like a long time ago when Luke Rocco was like his second fight in strike. Maybe he was like a Strikeforce Challengers guy, and I was at AKA. He was like, "Hey Casey, you might want to film this guy. He's gonna be good." You like, trust me. He was like, "Really?" He's like, "I'm telling you, this guy." And he was just doing these little spin kicks. I remember
Dude, he
just
knows.
him. He knows. Like his eye for talent. Like he knows. He was telling me because I was there for actually shooting Kane, and but he was like, Casey, why are you here? You want to shoot this guy? So yeah, I remember that moment. Yeah. So Javi Mendez is a great guy.
Great eye for talent. Great developer.
Yep.
Understands limit. Like he's a really, really good coach. So shout out to Javi. Matt Metzger, Shara Bullet doing side quests as an assassin. LOL. I don't know if you guys had the commentary on, but the fight that became fight of the night was not interesting enough because it was so one-sided and repetitive that they then talked about how Shara Bullet accepted the fight while shooting a film of some kind in Los Angeles where he plays a laundromat owner / assassin. I have no idea what any of that is about, but Shara Bullet, he's taking over Hollywood apparently.
Yeah.
Neat.
Good to see.
All right, guys. All right, super chat coming in from our friends in Mexico.
The Soul Reclop. Hello from Tijuana. Jed and guys, what do we need to get Dern to train so she can be what we think she can be, or she needs to go train? Love you guys. Hermano Jose, thank you for representing.
Brown Pride, baby.
I mean, Rick, since you don't believe in Mackenzie Dern, how can we get you to start believing in Mackenzie Dern?
No, the train has left the station. Let's be real. Like, she is what she is. Like, I don't think there's any like camp she goes to all of a sudden be a thing.
What about Javier Mendez?
Nah, it's too late. We're too late. I don't think her coaching is subpar, right? I think she surrounded
No, it's
herself
not
with
at all.
decent coaches, and so it's just
She got
she is who she
Perillo.
is.
She's doing fine.
Yeah, like this. If you're gonna do striking, like there's a lot worse coaches you could go to than Jason Perillo. So it's just like I don't think she has it in her to mix up the game the way she needs to mix up the game. So, I don't think it's a coaching thing. I think she is a fighter who is who she is, and as I said earlier, it's good enough to have been a highly decorated jiu-jitsu player, one of the most decorated ever in the female ranks, and then become a really, really exciting UFC fighter. There's nothing wrong with that career. That sounds like a great career.
Yeah, she's consistently after she kind of had her. Did she have a bumpy start? Yeah, I guess bumpy start with weight cuts and everything. She's consistently been a top 10 fixture at strawweight, and that's a hell of a. You're one of the 10 best women in the freaking world at what you do. That's a great accomplishment. Just because she might not be number one, she's still a heck of a fighter, and I think she's had a great career, and I'm excited to see her fight again. And if she continues moving up, I'll be impressed. But I don't see her breaking the top 5. But I was picking Lupi tonight, and she won. Congratulations to her, and she's a good fighter. I mean, I know people just had maybe just unrealistic expectations, maybe, but man,
They're very realistic. I still believe
they're not. I mean, we've seen fighters flash brilliance before and just never be able to put the package together. She's not the first. It's very
go train
common.
with Habib. Look what it did for Bilal. We got it there. But yeah, no, she is who she is. Sometimes fighters don't get it, and that's just the world over. Sometimes fighters can't get to that spot, and like Casey said, I say all the time, hey, nothing wrong with being one of the 10 best people in the world at your job. That's a pretty damn good accomplishment.
all right. Switching.
Nate Nobili. Is Crawford the best boxer or Usyk? I don't know what you're talking about. Are you talking about Terrence Crawford? It's pretty tough because we were going to have coverage on site, but now we don't. So is the event even happening?
That's
if
funny.
The media's not there to cover it. Is it happening? I don't know.
That's funny. I am interested in this question though, because I have Bud number 1 pound for pound. Do you guys? I have Bud.
I think Jose had. Oh, you have Bud? I thought you had Usyk, Jose.
I had Usyk 1, and then Crawford, and then Inoue. But I said on the preview show, I have no problem with any combination of those 3 being 1, 2, 3. If you want to put Usyk 3, Inoue 1, Bud 2, you want to put Bud 3, Inoue 2, Usyk 1. I don't think there's a real wrong answer. They're all amazing.
I agree. As long as those 3 are your 3, whatever your order is fine. No wrong way to eat that Reese's. I personally have Bud 1, but that is a pretty fluid. It's just the performance against coming off was just so unbelievable against Spence.
Unbelievable.
That yes, it's incredible what Usyk has accomplished, and it's incredible what Inoue's done. The most incredible thing any of them has done in a single fight is that one, and so that reigns supreme for me at the moment.
Cool.
Yes, same.
No arguments.
Mm-hmm. Matt Metzger, thoughts on Bud by KO tonight? Need to make some chicken back after that Cory fight.
There's boxing tonight? I know it is.
What is this? We'll never know what happens.
Big if true.
I can't tell you whether he will win or not because we'll never know if he does. If they do fight, I mean, I would lean KO, but I am interested to see him moving up in weight. Still think he might be bigger than Madrimov, but it's an interesting test. It wouldn't shock me if he just styled on him for the whole thing. But
I could see a world where Bud just doesn't want to take a risk, right? He is on the precipice of a Canelo fight, and I could see a world where he's fighting smarter than the usual aggression we see from him. At the end of the day, he's always going to be aggressive because that's just how he boxes, and he is going to be the one pushing the pace and throwing the damaging shots. But I could see a world where it's maybe 20% less, 30% less, whatever that looks like, to just not put himself in position to blow this Canelo fight. So I don't know. I don't know what we'll see. I'm a little bit curious to kind of see how he looks, but I think there's a world where he tries to put just the right amount of pressure on that gas pedal to not get himself in danger.
Yeah, right. I have a Anderson Ruiz Crawford parlay because I want to believe that Anderson is the future of American heavyweight boxing. I think he beats Piccoli, but if he gets knocked out in like 4 rounds, it won't shock me either. but that's the only betting action I have for tonight. So I can't guide you on the Bud by KO thing. It's too tight for my liking.
Is Ruiz gonna style on Big Baby?
I think so.
I mean, if it goes
but
more than
he's
3
coming
minutes,
off of 2
yes.
years not fighting.
Yeah, but man, Big Baby's got 3 minutes in him. If you get outside that 3 minutes, you're
he came in
probably-
over
Big Baby also
300
hasn't fought in
pounds.
like a year,
Yeah.
so maybe he's got like 4 minutes. Maybe he's been harvesting energy for this
he
year
fought,
off.
who did he fight? He
Who?
fought.
Big Baby?
Yeah.
Miller.
No, he just got smashed up by Daniel Dubois.
Yeah, Dubois just
Was that
just
earlier
knocked
this
him out.
year? Am I just crazy?
Yeah.
That was
In
that was
my head,
late
that
20
fight
that was
was
late
not-
20 that was late 2023 on that Day of
okay.
Reckoning card.
And in
That
that
wasn't
one, he
this year,
had
though, but yeah.
he had like 7 minutes in him. It was kind of impressive, but that's
Sir,
my
he
guy.
got knocked out halfway through the final round. So he
did.
almost made it.
did.
He almost made it.
But by made it was like him clinching every opportunity and falling into the ropes. And but I will
Maybe
always
he can
ride
do
with
that
Big
against
Baby.
Andy.
He's my local guy, and I know him and love him, and I don't care how many steroids he did before the Anthony Joshua fight. He's my guy forever. Shout out Jarrell. Jarrell's my guy. By the way, I mean,
I love
nobody
Andy as a thing. Andy's so fun to me.
Oh, Andy's great, but nobody's gonna know this. But like Jarrell Miller, like beat Mirko Cro Cop in a straight up kickboxing match.
Yeah.
Like this
beat
is a
him.
thing that happened in real life. Like
Yeah.
I'm again, like who knows what kind of
Wait,
supplements were
did it-
involved in this.
I thought
But he
Cro Cop
beat him.
beat him.
I thought Cro
Cro
Cop
Cop
won
beat
both.
him.
He beat him, but he lost.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
he lost that fight. Cro Cop
Oh, he did?
very clearly lost that fight.
Oh, okay, I don't
yeah.
remember
Isn't
the
he
details
0-2
of the fight.
though? Isn't technically he 0-2?
He did. He got in the
He's
second one.
he's
He
lost
got
2
knocked out.
fights to Krokop.
Yeah, in the second one he got knocked out, but in the first one, straight up beat him. Jerk job, like bad decision. He beat Mirko Cro Cop in kickboxing. If you watch it, you'll come to the same conclusion. He beat him.
Two
he
important things to note. This is also Krokop in 2014. Like we're not talking.
Oh yeah.
prime. And 2,
No,
I
no,
love
end
how
of his
you
career.
said, "Who knows what substances were involved?" I think we all know what substances were involved. Both sides of that thing. Come on, man.
I'm gonna pretend I don't know. Who knows? I don't know. And there's no way to find out, according to Chael Sonnen. So
No way. No way to know.
But he did. The end of Cro Cop's career certainly, but like near the tail end. But like it was impressive. It was impressive at the time, and I think he's the type of boxing guy that you need because he can sell the shit out of a fight. Like he gets
Did
in
a
the
great
mic
job
and
with
he
the pressure.
really tries to bully these guys. He's fantastic in that role. He was the perfect foil for that Anthony Joshua fight before it fell apart for him testing for everything under the sun. But he's a really good kind of like talk the shit, build the fight up, and then put the guy over if they can pass that test. So this could be a real like, hey, Andy Ruiz is back type moment, and that'd be fun. And I really like that.
And more
Miller
importantly,
knows
if
this
Jared
segment.
Anderson can win, then
Yes,
we can do the
that's
big
right.
baby off,
Yeah,
and that fight
big
will
baby.
be perfect.
That's all I was talking about off the press conference. Like, ooh, make him face off.
Yeah.
All
We'll get to
right,
do that. Maybe Jared can beat Bacoli. It'll be great.
Yeah.
Heavyweight boxing's fun.
Yeah, I can't wait to find out when these matches happen because I have no idea. So it's gonna be
Yeah.
Who knows? We'll never
Who
know.
knows? Last 2 super chats, and this one is specifically for Mr. José Youngs.
Jose CT Cook says, "What's your thoughts on RDJ Robert Downey Jr. as Doom? I think it's a bummer. We need new blood in the MCU. What are your thoughts?"
Hashtag what's MMA.
I'm gonna sit over in my chair.
Oh, wow.
He's doing the
This
meme.
is-
He's doing the meme right now.
I was saying this is
leaning
the meme.
I'm very confident it's a smokescreen. If it's not, it's I think very silly. But I am not the target audience for this. I don't quite understand why you bring back RDJ. He played a totally different character, both morally and antagonist protagonist type situation. I don't quite get it. I'm a massive Doctor Doom fan. I think he is very easily one of the on the Mount Rushmore of supervillains in comic books, up there with Joker, Lex Luthor, and Magneto. I think those are the 4. Green Goblin's probably
I don't,
5th.
is that even
Green
up
Goblin's
for
probably
debate?
No, because I will hear arguments for Green Goblin. I will hear arguments for Two-Face and Kingpin. I think those are, and Doc Ock specifically. I think those are very much
Maybe
in
Doc
play as
Ock.
well. I think those are all very much in play. Green Goblin is also there, but that is neither here nor there. I think it's weird because Dr. Doom is Romany. He's from like a European country. I don't, and the 2 iterations we've had by Dr. Doom on movies have not been that, which is very silly, because it's, you know, part of he's the lead, he's the ruler of Latveria. He can't just be a dude with a California accent. I don't quite understand why they would make him RDJ if he's going to wear his mask, considering he is probably the most aesthetically cool characters ever designed. And the mask just represents, like, he has a scar on his face from one of his experiments blowing up, and rather than live with it, he covered his whole body in metal, which is just kind of represents his outlook on life. If it's not perfect, it needs to be torn down or covered forever. So if you're not gonna cover RDJ, that would be stupid. So again, if he's gonna have no mask, that's stupid, because that's the most compelling part of his background. He's also a Fantastic Four villain. Let's not forget that. A lot of people think, oh, it's going to be this Doctor Doom versus the Avengers. That's stupid. He is first and foremost a Fantastic Four villain. He's, you know, that's where he was introduced. He's what separates him from the regular villains of the MCU. He's not a super villain because he's evil. He just solely hates Mr. Fantastic, Reed Richards, and by extension, the rest of the Fantastic Four. So he's not just your generic, I want to take over the world. It's, I want to prove I am smarter than the smartest man in the world. The Russos are also directing. I think they're very overrated. I think, you know, Thanos is a quote unquote morally gray villain. That is very dumb, because his sole purpose in life was to just kill about half the universe. There's nothing morally gray about that. And more people are excited to see RDJ. Like, it has nothing to do with Victor Von Doom. I'm excited to see Victor Von Doom play on the big screen. I don't really care who plays him. I don't think it had to be an A-list celebrity. Are you more excited to see RDJ, or are you more excited to see Dr. Doom? You can't really have both. If it's a variant of Tony Stark, that just undoes the entire ending of Endgame, where you sacrifice his whole self, because Iron Man is a morally questionable hero, and Dr. Doom has a strict moral compass, and he is a supervillain. They are just polar opposite ends of the spectrum. Combining them just makes a generic supervillain bent on world conquer. It's just, I don't quite get it. I truly don't get it, but it is what it is. I wish they would just do superior Iron. If they're going to do evil Iron Man, just do superior Iron Man. It's right there. He can look like Tony Stark because it's just another multiverse of Tony Stark, and he's evil. So just do that. I don't get it, but do you if you're excited about it.
Hey,
End of rant.
Cook got us $5 worth.
There you go.
It sure did. I think it's going to be fine, guys. It might be bad. It might be good. Watch it. See.
Dr. Doom deserves better. That's all I'll say.
I mean, I would posit that RDJ is the best Dr. Doom has gotten from anyone in Marvel cinema thus far.
Should have been Gary Oldman.
That would be terrific. There's also a lifetime between that movie coming out, so we'll see how it shakes out.
I also, and as I said at the beginning, he's not going to play the real Dr. Doom. I am confident in that. He's going to play a variant.
All right, and our very last super chat. It's a simple one.
Woo. David Sandhagen, favorite candy bar. Don't know where this came from. I don't know.
Are we sticking specifically to bar? Does it have to be actual bar? Like, can it be a Reese's, or does it have to be like it has to be in
Reese's
bar form?
Probably counts.
Yeah, I would say Reese's count.
I don't think Skittles counts, but like Reese's.
Okay,
feels like
Skittles and like
What?
Starburst don't count then.
That's not even remotely a candy bar-ish.
Neither is Reese's. Reese's
I don't count Reese's. These are candy bars. Candy bars.
If you don't want to count Reese's, that's fine. Though they are definitely closer to candy bars than Skittles are.
Now we're just back into the Dr. Doom versus Tony Stark morally gray area.
What's a good bar? Butterfinger's a pretty solid bar. Butterfinger's a nice bar. I like a Butterfinger.
That is
You're an Almond Joy guy. Come on.
Fuck Almond Joy.
I hate Mounds and Almond Joy.
Yeah,
I don't like coconut flakes.
Fuck
I
that
don't like
shit.
coconut flakes.
Yeah, facts.
Fuck Mounds.
They're just the Will Smith of candy bars. Overrated and terrible.
I don't like them. Twix are good.
I'm a big.
How do you eat Twix? Do you do it by layers, or you just?
Just eat it.
No, bite.
I
Just-
changed it up.
What do you mean do it by layers? What kind of psycho shit are you doing with Twix, Casey?
Like licking off the chocolate, right? And then you kind
Yeah,
of
they take the caramel and leave the nugget part or whatever.
That's
the nougat.
It's too much science.
that
for
is
me. I
some
just wanna eat it.
Dexter level serial
I think
killer stuff right there.
I like. There's no outside of Mounds and Almond Joys are trash. It can be cast into a lake of fire for the rest of eternity, for all I care. But any other candy bar, if you give me any other candy bar, I will eat it. But I think the one that I seek out the most is Three Musketeer bars.
Those are
Love the Three
good.
Musketeer bar.
Too sweet for me, but I get it.
Crunch
get
is
it.
good. Crunch is a good
good.
bar. But I'm
Stout.
so much more of
100 gram
a fruity
Ooh.
candy, like a Starburst,
I'm a-
Skittle, gummy bear
I'm a
type guy.
I'm a big Baby Ruth fan too. Big time
Love Baby
Ruth.
Ruth. I think if I only get to
Go ahead.
the
Go ahead,
number,
Jed.
I say that if I only get one, and nobody ever shows love to it, but I love just a straight chocolate bar, like just a straight Hershey's is fire.
Mm.
But if I get a 1B, it's probably a Milky Way.
Super underrated because
Milky
nobody
Way's
really like
fuck.
goes for it. $100,000 is a
That's
good
what I was
bar.
about to say.
Whoa.
$100,000 bar is
100
terrific
grand
candy
is a
bar.
bad-
Yeah,
is a-
Mounds
is a
bars
really
are good
bar.
too. They're all good. Outside of Mounds and Almond Joys.
Yeah.
I actually
hey.
all the way agree. 100%
Yeah.
agree with everything
And if
Jose's
you-
putting down right now.
And if you choose to eat if you go to a bodega and ask for an Almond Joy or Mounds bar, you probably also ask to get hit in the shin by a Razor scooter.
I just saw a video of
no
a
one
guy
likes that.
doing that 1,000 times in a row recently. Like,
And that guy
Getting
probably
hit
likes Almond Joys and Mounds bars.
Dude, one of the worst jackass stunts for me to physically watch was a razor guillotine where they just hung a razor scooter up and then they just
wasn't it a
dropped it
skateboard
onto
deck?
people's
Wasn't it
shins.
just wasn't it just a skate deck that they did it with?
Maybe it was just that. I don't know, but it was like
Doesn't matter.
the
Still
most horrifying thing I've ever seen of all the things they did on Jackass. Like,
Yeah.
I want to do that the least.
Yeah. Yeah.
Put my shin in this and just get it dropped is nightmarish. Also, shout out to Reese's Fast Breaks. They're absolutely
That's a good
delicious
candy
candy
bar.
bars as
That's a
well.
good candy
That's a bar. That's a bar.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
I also-
There you go.
unquestionably a bar.
I'm a big dark chocolate fan, so if I see a dark chocolate Twix, I'll 100% eat that.
any of the dark chocolate variations I'm down with.
Alchemist, I'm sorry, but an Airhead is not a candy bar. You got to get out of here with whatever that's.
Get
does it
out.
count?
It is-
might count technically
Not only
by
that's not
definition.
counting. I'm not. I'm rejecting that. There's no rigidity to that. The word bar implies some form of sturdiness to it.
I'm glad you drew a line. You may.
I will.
this
I
guy
will
was
draw the
willing to
line
do-
there.
this
We're
guy
not
was
calling
doing-
Airheads candy bars.
This
We're not
guy was
doing it.
doing Reese's before we objected to that.
I'm open to calling Reese's. That's more of a bar than an Airhead is.
No, what? No, physically, form wise, an Airhead is much more of a bar than a Reese's.
Airheads have no structure. They're just flimsy. It's a
Reese's
noodle. It's a
isn't
candy
in the
noodle.
shape that we are describing.
You try and tell me a Twizzler's a candy bar? Get the hell out of here.
More than a Reese's, I would say.
Oh,
yes.
wow.
This is an insane take.
Dude, we're going. Okay, it's
We need to
candy.
leave. We've been doing
Yeah,
this
yeah.
forever.
Okay,
We were
It would be
friends
like-
before this super chat. We were friends, and now
If somebody said I got hit by a bar, right? You're picturing like a pole. Like there's some length to it. It's long. If somebody said I got hit by a bar and they told you, oh, it was actually baseballs, like that's the comparable for Reese's, like
Well,
two
when someone
circular
says-
objects. It's
when someone
not. It's
says
not it.
When someone says they got
You
hit by
just
a
said
bar,
frisbee, not baseball.
I
Frisbee.
picture a
Okay,
bar.
frisbee, whatever.
I don't.
Frisbee.
When someone says someone got hit with a pole, I picture a pole, not a bar. Regardless.
Correct.
Now we're just cutting hairs.
When someone says they get hit by a bar, I don't think they got hit by a floppy whatever
Sneakers.
an Airhead is or a Twizzler. Then they
It's
got hit by
certainly
a
not
noodle.
a frisbee though. It's not a frisbee, and it would be closer.
Reese's.
not a
Hey,
Frisbee.
Jed. What's the full name of that candy? Reese what?
I have absolutely no idea. Peanut butter
Reese-
cup.
What's
you go.
that second word?
Peanut butter cup.
Cup.
Cup. That
Look,
is a cup.
I didn't fight y'all. Well, you guys are acting as if I
Hey,
stood 10
we-
toes.
we
and was
can
like,
all
agree.
it's a
We
candy
all-
bar.
we can
Here's
all
one.
agree- we can all
Is a
agree
York
that's candy
pepperment
bar.
patty a bar, even though it's circular, but it has closer to the properties that we.
I would also
discussing.
say that a
as
York
patty.
peppermint patty is a candy bar, but
I
it
can
is
go.
technically
I can
a patty.
go more with that. I can go more with that.
Peppermint patties suck, so it doesn't matter. No one.
I don't know you people anymore.
Your
Who are
peppermint
you?
patties
Casey is
suck.
horrified. Casey is horrified.
This is hogwash.
Thank you.
I
that was
should have
super
brought up
chat.
the airhead thing, but that offended me when I saw it. It hurt me. It's not a candy bar. Let's get out of here with that.
Eric, I saw a little human poking.
Yeah, that was my daughter. Shout out to Cece. She,
I saw
she
a little
You heard
needed
it.
to
You
unlock
heard us,
the
you
iPad.
heard us talking candy.
Yeah.
I wish. She needed me to unlock the iPad so she
I'm gonna
could
go smack up an
entertain
airhead
herself.
now.
All right, we good though? Cece's good.
She's great. She's
All
doing
right, yeah.
fantastic.
All right, okay. All right, we can wrap it up then.
Go watch.
Boom. Let's wrap it up because we've been doing this for a hot minute. UFC Abu Dhabi's in the books, y'all. It was a good card, and it's only 8:20 here on the East Coast. If you're on the West Coast, you got just a lifetime in front of you. Formerly, I would have told you to stay tuned to MMA Fighting and watch some boxing, but I don't think the boxing is happening anymore. So
I think it's not
I
happening.
think this is
Canceled the whole
over,
thing.
right? They're just not boxing
Canceled it.
anymore.
Canceled. Canceled.
That's a shame.
Too bad.
You can just check in. Maybe MMAfighting.com has some coverage of if it happens.
Well,
Otherwise,
you can watch SummerSlam.
apparently I had no idea that was happening until somebody slacked about it a little bit ago. SummerSlam's happening. MMAfighting.com just has all the goods you need for everything. On to the next one, comes out tomorrow. I will be joining Alexander K. Lee in just a little bit to record that. And then we're back in action on Monday doing whatever we're doing. Eric, are you on the MMA Hour Monday?
We're gonna have an MMA hour on Monday. Yes.
MMA Hour on Monday, so make sure you're in for that. Otherwise, it's been an honor and a privilege to be with y'all this evening. Had great fun talking about what is and is not a candy bar. And Umar Nurmagomedov, that guy, was fun to talk about him as well. Until then, José Youngs, Eric Jackman, E. Casey Leiden, I'm Jed Meshew. Love y'all.
Dr. Doom deserves better.